I've got a camera.
So it's all good. And oh, hey, by the way, everybody, hey, welcome to TLD Chat. It's Friday. Welcome to Video Friday. By the way, it is going to be a wonderful day today because we got the band back together.
Yeah, putting the band back together.
Matt, Sam, and Brent chilling in the video windows today while we talk about and geek out on video stuff for e-learning. Hold on one second. Yeah, now that's how we like to start the day.
Unless your name is Kara North, in which case that's not the way you like to start the day, apparently. Yeah, that was choreography. That was moves. That was
oh, wrong one.
Coordinated. Oh, wait.
It started playing again.
Yeah, Matt, we didn't hear you. I think the microphone is
What? Did we lose him?
Am I there?
Ah, there you are. Okay.
I'm trying to change settings. I've got a different camera and it's not working, and I don't know why. I don't know what happens.
Well, you know, it's the mystical, magical world of video and audio, and that's why we're here.
That is why we're here. So we had planned to have a fantastic other guest this morning, but he's sick. So send good thoughts to Colin Steed, who's suffering from like a chest infection and cold and stuff like that. We are rebooking him for a future date, and he will not be here today, sadly, but we wish him well.
Fantastic. Yes, indeed. And I know some of you might know Sarah Gilbert. She's going to join us as well as a guest, but the only day she can do it is on Fridays. And so we'll try to figure out how we can squeeze in a little geeking out tech talk, video talk with her on a Friday as well. We've got her scheduled, I believe, for next Friday, but we're just going to have to sort all that stuff out. I was trying to connect with her on channel. Check much anymore, so totally my fault. But now I have her phone number and I have her email, and so now I can actually connect. And so we'll make this happen. Colin will get better. We'll have him on, and then we'll have Sarah on, and it'll all be good.
So that's the long story of the short version, which is that the three of us are here. And so this will just be us riffing off you guys today of what it is that you have questions about with e-learning video stuff. And we can talk gear, we can talk methodology. I recently gave a presentation on creating e-learning videos that don't suck. I can throw like slides up there, or we can just play. We have absolutely no agenda so far. So whatever you throw into the chat is most welcome.
Or if you're totally into the user interface, there's a cool ask a question feature at the bottom that you can go in and drop a question. And even though sometimes I totally ignore it, but I don't mean to, it just happens.
Between the three of us, we will not ignore a question.
There you go. Yeah. See, when we have three, it's all good. But you know what? We can't just sit here, Sam, and forget about Matt, the legend, our friend from TechSmith. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Matt here.
Hey, everybody. How's it going? I'm trying to debate whether I go and grab a cord to fix the camera, grab a seat so you're not looking at my nose, or what to do. So I'm just like, I'm ignoring Brent, basically. Just hey guys, it's good to be here. It's been I just got back from Cleveland, and let me tell you what, we're not the only people out there doing video. It's a crazy world out there. Lots of marketers are in the same boat we are at trying to figure out how to do video and how to do it well. And their goals are maybe slightly different than ours sometimes, but they are, and like, man, my boss just told me I need to make video, and they like, I don't know what to do. And so it's interesting to see the parallels of a lot of people who are in a different field or industry, but that I think are parallel. They're kindred spirits in so many ways. And it was actually very cool to go and see that kind of part of the world, and in terms of the people, and have conversations with them and be like, guys, I'm not a marketer, but I feel your pain, and I know the same challenges that you feel right now. So
this wasn't just any day in Cleveland where stuff like this goes on. This was social media marketing world, yeah?
No, it's content marketing world. So this is it's
so
similar. There's lots of overlap between those, and there's another one inbound which is a HubSpot conference coming up that will be similar as well. So similar types of people, but this is focused not so much on the social piece of it, although there is that aspect of it. They're really focused on just content creation and content marketing. And let me tell you about just one session. I don't need to spend a lot of time on this. So I went to the session. It was how to build training courses and develop the system to help bring in your customers to feel affinity with your organization. And I thought that's a really interesting topic.
we happen to know a whole industry that kind of focuses on that. I'm curious to know who they had giving the presentation.
Well, she and I'm trying to think of her name, and I'd have to look it up because I don't remember. My head is just full of so many things from what took place. But she said very specifically, she's like, I went to my training department and said, can I borrow some instructional designers? And she said they're really hesitant because they were afraid I was going to keep them. And she said, and I did. Which I think is awesome. I mean, it speaks to what we do as a people. That our work has value, and I think we start to see others are going to start to see that value as well, in terms of especially content marketers, because we are really good content creators. We make stuff that's really valuable because you can't just make content that's use my product, my product's so great, use my product. You got to make stuff that's here's what you do, or here's the stuff that's maybe not about how to use a product, although we need that as well, but here's why you want to do this, or here's some other ideas about this space, about making video that makes your life kind of the stuff that you're making more relevant and more valuable to part of the organization that usually has maybe a bigger seat at the table than we typically have. I know we'd like a bigger seat at that table, but for what it's worth, marketing usually has a budget and money.
That's a bigger seat right there.
Yep.
And they have the creative resources most of the time too, which is we get the table scraps.
Yeah, we get the little folding chair in the corner.
The kids' table.
However, I found what the interesting challenge, and I bring this up on Video Friday because I think it's relevant for us as what we do, and as we learn to be better creators of video and other mediums, whether it's AR, VR, and all the other things that we do. Is there was a lot of people there who were struggling with that same budget question, but it wasn't I have nothing. It was I've only got a few $1,000s for this project. But for us, someone says, hey, here's a couple $1,000, go make this project happen. I'd be like, woohoo, dude, look what we can do, man. We can buy props, we can buy gear, and so it's just a different level, but they're I can't go to an agency and spend $50,000 to make this video. Right. And I'm you don't have to. I mean, if you've got $5,000, you're further ahead of the game than most of us. And for as long as you have some okay gear, a phone, maybe a light or two, you can do a lot. So it was really cool.
Microphone.
Well, without saying, I think we've beaten that topic to death, and I didn't want to. We did talk about that a lot, and that was something that was key. But the thing about that space is they're not doing voiceovers. And we often talk about the Yeti, and it's great for this type of environment. It's great for voiceovers, but they want talent, actors, and they want people moving, and and so the audio requirements become different because all of a sudden you're not talking about a desktop mic, you're talking about a lavalier and probably wireless, which, so their price just goes up, but that's okay. But so it was cool. It was just interesting to have these different perspectives and have people that are in the same boat as us, as we often talk about, but they are, not even aware that as a group, we're rolling forward. We know how to do this stuff. And I think we could be huge value to our marketing departments if they don't know that we exist.
Yeah. So and thank you, Craig, for pointing out that there are questions in the Q&A, and I am going to get to those. I saw those, but while we're on this topic, I just wanted to cover some of this stuff that you saw, because I do think it's super important. We talk about the connections between marketing and learning all the time. And for a content marketing event as large as Content Marketing World to have even just one session on how to create training videos, that's a pretty big deal. What can we do to encourage closer connections between us and them?
I think I'm gonna quote my director of marketing, and she said this in a funny context because there was a few people there at the conference that were heroes of my colleagues. That they're big industry mavens. One is Jay Bear, the other one's Ann Handley. If you're not familiar with these names, they do great work around content marketing and social media marketing. And one of my colleagues, her name is Jessie. Brent, you've had some communications with Jessie before. I don't know, Sam, if you have. If not, we need to connect you. But she's a huge Jay Bear fan, and she was actually going to a different conference, and she wanted to meet him. And I actually looked up a bunch of stuff like here's some things you could talk about. Like he's a tequila collector, and just finding out some stuff. And well, she found out that he was at the conference, of course. Our director of marketing kind of helped take her over and be like, hey, we're so-and-so, got to meet him. Comes to find out he's coming to Lansing, Michigan in a few weeks. And they said, hey, we can take you to dinner. And this is the wise wisdom my director dropped on us. She's like, everyone is a person and people like dinner. So I think just, finding those connections with people in the marketing department and helping them have those conversations like, hey, what are you guys doing around video?
Yeah.
And here's what we're doing. Did you know that we did this? And not to be there to shop yourself or like, hey, look, we can solve all your problems, but just find that commonality of like, we both have this problem. Can we solve it together rather than, solve it separately and we'll be disappointed because they got the toys. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's the first thing. Maybe find a time to have a lunch with some of your marketing people that might be having these conversations. And it's probably not the video person, but maybe the person who's doing content strategy. And even let them know, hey, we've got great content we make. How can we repurpose this for your marketing department, for the blog or for social posts or for a white paper or webinars? And I think having those conversations is really important. The change that TechSmith has made is in the last year, training was kind of off. And when I say training, it's not the internal training like HR training. We were externally facing, customer facing, and we've moved those resources of people into the market. They are part of now the marketing structure. So it's kind of taking a shift. And I know we're a little bit different. We're not like, we're not doing the onboarding basic kind of training as people come on board or kind of compliance training. So I recognize that's a difference, but that's one of the changes that we've made as an organization to facilitate some of this stuff from happening.
That's great, and being able to talk to a content strategist, like to know that that's a title, and to be able to dangle in front of them all of this candy, like, hey, we're making all this content. Like, of course they're going to be probably naturally interested in developing a personal connection. From that, it could go a lot of different ways. I think that's great advice, Matt.
Well, and the gal that talked, they were an energy company, and the content that they were creating was all sorts of different stuff, but it wasn't about using them as an energy provider. It was about they worked with the IEEE to create a program around helping people that come there to learn more about becoming more aware about your energy consumption. Mm-hmm. And they ended up in doing bigger things like certification, like an actual certification program that was backed by IEEE and stuff like that. But it was interesting to see how they're playing it. And the phrase that she used that caught my attention was she called it a philanthropic operation, that they were doing this to give it away to anyone who wanted to go and sign up. Of course, they collect that information. That gives them opportunity to market to them or do whatever. But that outward approach, kind of saying, here's content, come learn from us, also makes them a thought leader. And that's a really good position. And that's our buzzword for the day, folks. So you can scream at home if you want. Thought leader. But it's true.
We're not playing buzzword bingo today.
Oh, dang it. I missed it. But it's true, right? Like you put that stuff out there and people then can start to recognize you as someone who's knowledgeable and giving of this information. And that puts the organization in a really great position if you can do it well.
Absolutely. All right, well, good deal. We'll circle back around to that probably, I'm guessing, at some point. But let's get to some of these questions. We got a couple of them that have been voted up. So here's the first one. How do you consult around, quotes, we need a video requests before any needs analysis is done to determine if video is the right solution? Who wants to take that?
I'm pasting a link into the chat because the thought leader thing is a trigger for me. So Matt, why don't you take first?
Okay, so how do we do this? Well, I think it's like anything. And to be fair, I don't do a lot of consulting with people. People don't come to me and say like, hey, Matt, let's make this thing together. So I don't do a lot of this, but I do think, I mean, it's the same question if someone says, well, we need a PowerPoint presentation, or we need a whatever, insert whatever medium or delivery mechanism they want, and just try to step them back from that, saying, okay, well, before we get ahead of ourselves, what are you trying to do? What do you want, whatever this is, to accomplish? And maybe avoid, like for me, I have to actually turn that spigot off and say, it's not necessarily video. This isn't necessarily like, so that's my bias because I do video so much. And so it's like, okay, well, what is the end thing that we're actually, what do you want to, forget whatever it is, but what do you want the person to do, or what do you want it to become? And then go from there, because I think in talking with them, if they're open enough, it won't become a conversation about let's do video right now, unless they've already set their mind on it. And then it's like, well, how do you change someone's mind when there's heels already dug in? I guess that's data and saying like, hey, here's how you're going to get better actual results than that. But I don't do a lot of that. Maybe Ben or Sam, you guys have better answers than I do.
Well, I can speak next to it. Just last week, I got a call from a lady who has she works for a hospital, and they used to have a way of, they had a video person that was working with the clinical staff to be able to create videos that were used for, like, here's what you do when we have a SARS patient. Here's, how you wear your mask. This is what you do for, spinal fluid on the floor. Things like that are like, If
I got a nickel for every time I heard that phrase today, man.
So it's stuff that is very specific. It's unique to that hospital. It's not something where there's necessarily going to be an off-the-shelf thing that they can grab. They want to actually have it be in their facility. And they've been having their clinical staff like circulate this, but it's not standardized, and it needs to be, and it needs to be tracked for all sorts of reasons. But they don't have their video person anymore. So they called me to ask about, well, what do? We need to get all of our clinical staff up on making these videos. And adding on to what you're just saying, Matt, like, why, what is it that you're invested in right now? What is it that actually needs to change? Because if you're taking clinical staff off the floor to go play around in video, and yeah, there's great tools out there to be able to do that easier. And they were contacting me because of the smartphone thing, like how easy can we make it? But the workflow is really the major issue. So the first thing that I'm doing when I'm consulting with people is trying to figure out what their current state is, what their expectations are, and what their workflow is, and to look at that angle as opposed to anything technical, anything to do with a video. The places where things will break will be in how your organization gets stuff done, how it is that it's going to be measured at the end. And if you don't know what the measure is going to be at the end, you're not ready to select what's going to be the best way to get to that. You don't know if it's going to be a video. You really don't know until you know how it's going to be measured and who's going to care about it and who's going to own it and who's going to support it when it breaks. I said, I can give you training, but it's going to be a one-day thing. Like maybe we could video record it. Great, it's an asset, but your people are going to have questions. Who do they go to with questions? I don't want to just give you this and then say goodbye. Like where is your support for your people before we start making videos, before we start going down that realm? Let's know that it's actually going to produce the result that you want.
Yeah.
At a certain point, though, don't you already have that? If you're an existing customer and they come to you and say we need a video, don't you kind of already know? Isn't that a part about that's a piece of the relationship building and building that trust down the road? Sometimes you kind of know if the clients or your internal client, if you're inside of an enterprise and someone comes to you and says we'd like a training video, and they are that specific. Sometimes you just, you kind of know what they're going after because you've already built that relationship, which makes that part of it more important. Or if you don't know who they are, now's a great time to start building that relationship and asking all of those great questions that you just mentioned, both of you actually. What are the main goals, right? Who's the audience? How are they going to be viewing this, and just kind of getting around the edges of the details, whether it's technically related or just instructional design related. And it doesn't necessarily take that long, but, I think I'm not exactly sure anymore if we are really having these types of problems.
They're out there. You bring up a good point, Brent, which is as soon as someone can show me a sample of here's something we made that we like, that we're using within our organization, or we want it to be like this, but with these kind of differences, or can you make this part better? That's a totally different conversation, because then you're actually talking about something specific. They have a video. I know they've got some kind of workflow. I know that they've got some kind of assessment of whether it's working or not. They just want another thing that they already have. So we don't have to invent something, and we don't have to do the kind of in-depth analysis that we do when we're starting from scratch.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about that again around having something ahead of time, right? Like I'll be walking into a conversation next week with somebody that has a whole bunch of stuff that was done for them that they don't like, and so they're asking me, you must know other people who do really, really good, well-designed, creative, engaging stuff, right? Can you come look at this stuff and, point us in the direction of people that do better? So they've got existing content, right? But I think that same sort of thing will come at you as a professional in this space in the form of Word documents too, right? There's always some sort of, maybe not always, but in most cases, there's some sort of content that exists, right? And oftentimes the question is, can you make this into a video, right? Or can you make this into e-learning, And that's really all they're going for. They don't want an analysis. They don't want you to solve any problems. They just know that
right,
that thing has been created, but they just don't like it, and they want the same thing or a new thing, just better.
Well, I wonder
who wants the analysis.
And no one really wants it. I was going to say, I think this is a great time for the improv to come to play, where if they say, I want a video, can we start saying yes and figuring out where to go from there? And really that might not end up in a video, and that's okay. But go on that journey with them of why do they want it? Like, and I think Craig said something that made me chuckle, is that like, well, they usually wanted a video because they saw something on YouTube the night before. And that could be very well true, but it seems like a great opportunity if they're coming to us and saying, I want this thing, and I don't care what said thing is that they want, we can then use that as a small opportunity to help them understand what we do. One of the things I learned very early on as a grad student, and I should have known that this would be a perpetual issue, is that when we had an assignment that was to write home to our parents to tell them what we were studying in grad school as future instructional designers. And, the thing is, the phrase has become a little bit more known, I think. Maybe it's just the circles I run in, but still, it's even here at TechSmith is like, instructional designers, what exactly is that about? And so maybe it's a chance to say, yes, we can do a video, but and let's figure out what's going to make this to really be the best, get you the best results, or however you say it. It doesn't have to be that literal.
Well, yeah, and no matter what, you have to ask some questions anyways, right? I mean, you can't just go, okay, I'll go make a video. You know, you're at some point you're going to be out. You're going to have to ask a few questions. So you might as well slip in a few of these other questions right along the way and just kind of dig a little bit. You don't have to be really intrusive. We don't have to get defensive, right? It doesn't have to be an adversarial sort of conversation. You know, all we're saying is that it's always when somebody just comes to you with something preconceived in their mind, there's reasons behind it. And we can either get upset about it and defensive and say, you don't know what you're talking about. Why are you always asking for? Or you can use it as an opportunity to build that relationship and help them figure out what it is that they really need. I think it's all good stuff to answer. Joseph, I hope that was helpful in some way.
My answer, frankly, my answer is always, hey, let's make a video. You know, I like video. Let's do it.
And why not, right? Because video is the future. That'll be my mantra for a long time until something else comes along, and then it'll be the future. But it's cheap and easy to make. And look, we can live stream fun stuff like this. 3 guys just hanging out on video, talking about video and stuff. And, you know, it just doesn't get much better than this, right?
Oh, I hope it does.
Me too. I mean, come on.
All right, another question. Here we go. For Matt, what type of information did you share at the social media conference for video marketers?
So, personally, I did 2 sessions. And these are both sessions that have taken various forms throughout different events for e-learning that I've done. One, it was literal. I brought the session over as 50 tips for better video. So walking through a variety of things, more meant to be really a high level, like if you're new to video or you've done a little bit of video, here are some things that you should be thinking about and going and learning about. So I don't, you know, like one of them's lighting. I don't teach them how to do lighting, but I talk to them about the importance of lighting and, you know, the fact that they should go learn more about it. And there's 50 of those things.
And how do you squeeze 50 things into a 60-minute session?
Well, 60 minutes is actually much easier than the 45 or 40 I had. I ended up really at 47. I had the last 3 kind of got rushed through, and that they're like, again, it's keeping it really high level. It's meant to be kind of that survey broad presentation, and you go quickly. You don't stop and have long conversations, and it's designed that way very intentionally, that it's, you know, going to get you in and start to see all these things. Because again, for a lot of people, I mean, for those people who keep coming back to like Video Friday, we've talked about a lot of things and we've got some depth. Or if you've done any work and you've been around people that do video, you start to pick up on the language, things like B-roll. You know, for us, that's like, oh yeah, we talk, oh, B-roll, that's old stuff. We know what B-roll is. We know why we use it. But for a lot of people, they're like, what's that? Yeah. Or they don't know that they should be thinking about makeup or rice paper and blotting out the blotches. They don't think about audio quality and what's things that are going to do that. They don't think about music from a learning perspective, that it, you know, music is okay, but it can interfere with the understanding of the video, or it can be really powerful and set tone and mood. And they sort of know some of that stuff, but it's like, okay, here's a bunch of stuff. Video doesn't have to be intimidating as it once was, but there is a lot that you can learn.
Do you tell them about soundboards and how awesome they are too?
Totally. That's tip 51. Get yourself a soundboard, and the first thing you put on is a fart sound. And then once you get over that, you find some clapping and some, you know, some other stuff. So totally.
I knew it. I knew it was the pros talked about them.
But the other session was much more in depth, and I talked about elements of engaging video. And I've been presenting ideas around this that I really feel like there's 2 components. There's passive things that you put into your video as a creator, but that the viewer doesn't have to do anything with. That, like, you know, it's like music and motion and these elements that you want to have there that can help make your video more engaging to watch. But the viewer just doesn't have to, that they're consumed by that. They're just consuming it. they don't have to take any action. But then there's this active engagement where you start to think about like, well, what thing are they going to do? And is it something that's in the video, or is it going to be something outside the video? Such as like outside the video might be an example of, after they watch the video, I want them to connect with me on social media. Or I want them to do this. And so there you might build in context in the video or around the video that helps them to do that. It could be interactivity and, you know, like putting in a link. I want them to go click on this link and go do something, like look at this other video, or I want them to read this white paper, or I want them to give me their email address. And so starting to think about those types of engagement and using those wisely. And the balance is interesting when I give that presentation, because it's a lot of more passive than it is active. I think active is still a growing kind of environment, something that we'll see going in the future, but also it is something that it's kind of dangerous, because if you start putting too many of those things, you're taking away from actual consumption of the video.
So you triggered something in me, and I hope that answered your question, Kara. As far as what he was talking about there, but yesterday we had a fantastic guest on, and she's got some great Kristen Anthony's got some great examples of some of the work she does, and she promotes, you know, the whole, you know, showing your work and being consistent and doing some practice projects on your own. And I was cruising her her portfolio here on the site, and I didn't realize that this particular effect was called the parallax effect. And it was new to me, so maybe it's new to others on Video Friday. If you've never seen the parallax effect, maybe you have seen it, but you just didn't know it actually had a name. This has got some music to it also, but the visuals are tell the story on their own. Kind of cool, right?
Cool. Yeah. Sorry I missed yesterday.
Yes, absolutely.
Parallax is also the name of the Hal Jordan Green Lantern character after he went crazy and tried to destroy the universe, and now he's kind of like a quasi hero, but also villain. Just
it's evil.
Story tips from Sam Rogers, everyone. Thank you very much.
There's also a web. I think it's got on. Hey, soundboards. What do we use? There's a web effect on web pages that you can use. I think it's also called the parallax effect, that has to deal with, like, you have a block of text and maybe on a solid background, and when you scroll, the background image reveals more. You reveal more of the background image, so it looks like the block of text is moving, but the image background is staying the same. So there's a couple different uses of that term. In fact, that's what I thought we were going to see. So at first I was like, yeah, this isn't what I expected. So, but it was okay. It's cool.
Yeah, I've seen it before on, especially in documentaries where all they have are pictures and images, and after a while you can only do that the Ken Burns effect so many times before people start to get kind of the motion sickness, and I always just thought that was kind of cool when they step it up, and there's some depth with the you know, in the images, and you can get a little motion that way. So. You know, and I like everything else, right? It's a cool effect, and you don't want to do it just for the effect, but if there's a really good reason why it might actually add some impact, then check it out.
But I think that's the, I mean, that's the thing with all of our craft, but being a purposeful video editor, you know, is just so important. And actually I'm working on a project for another conference promo, and I had our video guy give me a review, and he's like, why did you use this? Like, it was a fade to like a cross dissolve or something. Like, he's like, why'd you use that? I'm like, well, because, and I tried to explain. He's like, don't use. He's like, you don't have a good purpose. Don't use it. Like, just like, and he was right. And I didn't have a real strong purpose other than I thought it looked good and it helped cover some of my sloppiness. And that's not a
good excuse, right? Why isn't that a good enough reason? Come on.
Because I was being lazy and it didn't work. But being very purposeful in your editing, and you know, again, and I like to draw in Hollywood as an example. You look at what they do and everything that they have around them and everything that's in the shot, everything how they edit is all purposeful.
Yeah.
It's not just like, oh, well, gosh, I was just there. Let's shoot it. You know, it's like, no, they thought about every little detail. I think I mentioned maybe a couple of weeks ago, I was in LA and I did a Warner Brothers studio tour.
Oh, yeah.
And they did a backlot. You know, they take you around the backlot and you see, like, this is where like 5 shows shot the same, you know, we're all shot right in this one location. Mm-hmm. The thing is that on those backlots, they take away, they're done shooting, they take away the doorknobs, the light fixtures, because those all things are that date. And so if you're making a video or a movie there, you have to bring that stuff in. And I thought that's really interesting, just the kind of the level of detail that they're thinking about. It's like we're changing fixtures on a light switch.
So it's BYOD?
Yeah, totally. On a massive scale. But that's the type of stuff that I think we have to learn is like when we're shooting or creating or putting out whatever e-learning we are, that we're being purposeful about everything that's there. And it was easier to put it there than take it out.
Yeah. It's interesting how much level of detail Hollywood, even for just commercial shoots or even for music videos, that the production, the real pro production houses go into to shoot video and things like that. It just, we took the family trip to Ireland, and one of the places my kids wanted to go because it was close by was the bar where oh, who's that redheaded guitar player that's really popular right now? Now I can't even think of his name. The acoustic singer dude. He's Australian. Ed Sheeran. Yes, thank you very much. We went to the bar where they shot one of his videos, and we were chatting with the owner. He was telling us about the whole process and how it all happened and you know, what went down. And he said literally there was a crew that came into his, it was a really cool bar that has a whole bunch of just stuff hanging on the walls and hanging off the ceilings. You know, it's one of those. They literally went through the whole place with a magnifying glass up against everything, every inch of the place that would probably be in a shot, just to make sure that there weren't any copyrights or logos or product stuff in the shots at all, and anything that was even questionable was taken down and replaced with something else. And then when they were done with the shoot, they had the same crew come back in, they marked down everything where it was, and they put the whole place back to where it was. And I just thought, man, for like a shot that ends up being like maybe like 5 seconds long for all that work, it's crazy.
So at Focus On this year, I met a gentleman. His hobby is building stormtrooper costumes for, like, you know, the cosplay.
Oh, yeah, I see those guys, yeah. He's
a member of the 501st Legion, and he's a snow trooper. And we were talking, because he has Star Wars stickers. Like, hey, cool stickers, you know. We're chatting. He told me that he does this, and it's an incredible hobby. And one of the things he mentioned is that there is three levels that you can build your costume to. There's VHS, DVD, and Blu-ray. And I'm like, oh, that's weird. And he's like, I only build to VHS because he's like, when you get to the Blu-ray level, they count the number of stitches you use. And so what someone has done is gone through the Star Wars movie to look at this particular type of stormtrooper, you know, went in Blu-ray, and they zoom in as close as they can, and they count like, oh, this spot right here has 24 stitches. To reach that level, you have to match it exactly. So, I mean, that's the kind of detail that people are looking at. And I'm not saying we have to go crazy here. We don't have to be that. But I think it's interesting to take that and say, okay, what are the lessons that we can learn from that kind of studiousness about what goes into production? Yes.
Speaking of stickers. Right, there we go. That's better.
Come to DevLearn. If you're going to be at DevLearn, TechSmith is going to be there. We've got a bunch of other stickers.
Matt sent me a bunch of awesome stickers from TechSmith. So if you guys are interested in this one's my particular favorite. I love Happy Little Video, but anyways.
So yeah. But anyway, that level, it's crazy that people that are paying attention to that detail and you know, a lot of the stuff we're doing isn't going to be that dramatic or that needed, but it definitely helps. It makes a better production when you're thinking about those things.
It looks like Paul, since he's going to be building, he's in the process of building his video studio. He's going to also build stormtroopers at Blu-ray level, so that'll be fun to see. Guarding
the door.
All right, let's jump back to the questions. Hold on one second. We've got Kim from Cinecraft is asking one here. She says, and let me get it out from behind my camera. Do you find that companies are hesitant to use their own staff in videos, that they want professional actors instead, just because of staff turnover, etc.? Are there types, levels of videos that are more okay with internal staff and some that aren't? Interested to see how your experience lines up with ours.
Well, yes, everyone wants actors. Few people want to pay them. As an actor,
how can we get some pro actors and not have to pay anything?
Yeah, well, yeah, pro actors and not have to pay anything are kind of exclusive. You can get actors pretty easily. I do community theater, you know, but you don't necessarily want those folks in the shot.
Although they don't have to be bad. There are great community theater people who can do a great job. You just got to choose wisely.
There are, yes, and
choose
so
wisely.
There's usually folks that you can find that have some kind of experience. You know, maybe they were in a play as a kid in high school, or you know, something like that, where they'll act out scenes or whatever. But as far as using employees, it's really awkward, and I have had this happen when you make a video for your harassment prevention course, and then the person who's in the video ends up being part of a lawsuit. You can't predict stuff like that.
That has happened?
Yes. I won't tell you which company, but
nice.
Yes, that happens. So
I'm leaving, guys. I can't take it anymore.
So you want to be mindful.
Crazy.
You want to be mindful of the content. You know, like if you're shooting accounting stuff, you know, and someone is embezzling or whatever later, or you know, it's like you don't know. So that is a risk whenever you're using in-house talent, and and that just means that you're probably going to have to scrap that video. So that's a risk that you don't have with actors. But you know, how often does that happen? Really, not that often. That's a rare case.
I was going to say that sounds. That sounds like a 1 in a million sort of thing.
It's not as frequent. I don't know if it's 1 in a million. To me, it sounds kind of like, you know, the politicians who say those people are bad, and then they turn out to be one of those people. You know, like it kind of attracts it.
It happens. Hey, we're all humans, right? Human nature. You know what I would say to this question, Kim, is I would think a lot of it depends on what you're trying to do, right? If you've fully scripted out and you know exactly what has to be said or what you want to be said, and you want it to be said in a certain way, then you might need to step it up and just see. Maybe you test it with some local actors and just see if they're good enough to pull off the effect that you're going for, and then just have to kind of decide. But I think real employees are best when you need people to really talk and speak from the heart, and you want to do that interview style, right? And there are ways that you can do semi-scripted interview style. So maybe you know exactly what you want an employee to say, for example, but when you script it, when they read it, maybe it sounds really stale and they're just really not good at acting. One of the things that I've done in the past is just know ahead of time what it is that you want them to say. And when you're asking them questions, like ask a bunch of really generic questions to get them comfortable in front of the camera and to get them relaxed and to get them talking to you, and then start going into the questions. And if they don't say it exactly the way you wanted to, go back to it and then ask the question again, right? There's nothing that says you can't just keep asking the question over and over and over again. And you can even, you know, stop and say, okay, here's kind of what we're going for. Can you say something like this? And then some people will go, oh yeah, okay, I can do that. And then ask the question again, and then they can riff off of that. And sooner or later you end up getting what you want. And it turns out being much more fluid and it's the information you wanted, but it's not exactly the way you scripted it. But instead of having a script and trying to follow it exactly, you got what you wanted in a way that's more relaxed and more real and more authentic. And they've used their own words. It's a sort of a long way to go about getting that, but I've done that before, and it works out great if you get good at the interview style thing.
So I'll just add my 2 cents in here, a little bit different in terms of I think companies do get worried, like, oh, this person's no longer with the company, they can't represent us in this video. Our approach has been to that because we've made a number of videos about like what our culture's like, what it's like to work here, things like that. And we said, as long as they are someone that we would hire again, we think like they left on their own for their own reasons. Right. We're okay keeping them in there. I mean, as long as the video still truly represents who we are and what we do. But we're okay with that. And they usually are too, because if they're leaving on their own accord, I mean, they may have had a bad experience, but unless there's something really there,
they still don't mind representing the company.
Yeah, there's still a good representation of what we're like. And it's more of, think about it as more of an aggregate than like, oh, well, guess what? Matt Pierce is the only person who can do this. Hey, if my boss is watching, there's only a few things I can do. Keep me here. I'm doing okay, guys.
I'm taking notes, man.
No, but really, I think companies tend to get really worried about it. And they might have reason to get worried about it legally or whatever, but I think just my perspective is probably very unique on this, is like, no, they're still a part of who we are and what we did and what we represent, and it's fine. And there's costs. I mean, there's going to be costs regardless. If something changes that says, oh, this is no longer true, and the video no longer represents, whether it's a culture video or if it's a like truth about like what needs to happen for a procedure, that's going to cost you guys change cost anyway, whether it's an actor, whether it's somebody internal, they leave the company, they don't leave the company. That's a risk we always take, because the actor that was available 3 months ago may not be available again.
Yeah. If you have to reshoot or something. Hey, since we're talking about this, I just want to give a quick shout out to the Deering Acting Studio in Phoenix. They do all of this kind of stuff, and it's fun to see them every once in a while. See the folks that run this place show up in local commercials and stuff and go, hey, we know them. My son took improv classes there, and it was always fun to go see their shows, and they teach a fantastic little lots and lots of workshops, and they have a studio so people can practice being in front of the camera, and they do commercial stuff, and they do booking talent and all that as well. So there are little places in your area. This is actually a pretty common, what they're doing is pretty common. I think you can probably find one in your local area too, if you guys look hard enough. They're not always easy to find, but if you get hooked into the right community of people, you can find really, really inexpensive, good, high quality actors or voiceover folks and everything. And by the way, has anybody else been getting hit up with voiceover people? I tell them to just come hang out with us, but man, I think on LinkedIn I get hit up like 2 or 3 a week. Hit me up and say, hey, do you need any voiceovers for e-learning stuff? And I'm like, well, I'm not really the guy that hires for that kind of stuff these days, but come hang out with us on TLDChat. We got a whole bunch of voiceover people that hang out with us.
Yeah, that's been happening.
Like a voiceover show for these people. I mean, should we build a community for voiceover people? Because they apparently don't have one.
Maybe it won't work.
Man, funny. But anyway.
Well, adding on to everything that's been said, I work almost exclusively with SMEs, with getting people to look good on camera. That's the kind of stuff that I get brought in on. And
he's doing a workshop. Put that link in the box, people.
I was sharing that in the chat. For producing and directing e-learning video and stuff like that. I will be teaching a full day pre-conference workshop at DevLearn. And everything that you were saying, Brent, is totally applicable. Like just getting people comfortable and knowing how to get the little bits that you need. Remember, most of what you shoot is gonna not end up in the video anyway. So again, part of the reason that I favor cell phones and stuff like that is it's less intimidating than having the big you know, professional setup a lot of times, and you can get people in their native environment. You know, it's also worth saying that when you have someone who works in a company who's in the video, they're useful outside of the video. They are the person that is the representative and the support in the company on that topic forevermore. So even if they transfer positions or things like that, like they're recognizable. You see them, you know, in the lunchroom or you know, it sparks conversations for them. So so you're not just getting the person on the screen like you are with an actor. You're actually getting a support channel. And again, you want to factor that in with who you pick. It's not just someone that you're thinking of, you know, is going to be good on camera for an actor, but someone who's really going to, like you were saying, Matt, who's going to be representative of this, who you would hire again to do this, you know, like that's really good yardstick for who's going to be good on camera. And sometimes people have an off day, even if they're ideal. You know, it happens to actors too. You know, oh, I'm getting a divorce from my wife. She just served me papers this morning. Not a good day to, you know,
to do the love scene with the other.
Not too many of those in training videos. Or maybe there are.
Oh, well, I was thinking Hollywood. All right.
Yeah.
Now, this does lead to the point that somebody said that, you know, that person not only becomes the face, but if it's a bad, like the negative thing, like the Joey from Friends when he was the poster boy for STDs, you know, it's that comment was brought up, and it's like, yeah, I mean, so maybe that's a reason. Like, all of a sudden you have that line, like if we don't, maybe we say we don't show our employees in a negative light, and that just becomes the standard. And that's when you decide, oh, this could be internal, people can do it, or also, we're dealing with sexual harassment. We're dealing with these harder subjects that someone's gonna look bad in it. Well, let's not make our employees look bad.
Yeah, I gotta just go with the if you're gonna be needing to do some sexual harassment training, just buy the off the shelf stuff. There's pros that put that stuff together. It's super high quality. You know, they really, I mean, a lot of the folks that build those, you know, they've got psychologists that put their 2 cents in on how it should be done and what's going to have the most impact. I mean, they really, I mean, not everybody has done it, but some of them are just really, really good. And so why, you know, why wrestle with those types of topics when the pros have already pretty much nailed it?
So here's the question for you, Brent. Who are those pros and how do we get them on here? Because, I mean, they're dealing with, and not to say that I agree with you. I don't think we should be tackling it. It's just an easy one to pick on, right? Yeah. But those are our peers. Those are people that we should be talking to about, like, okay, what goes into when you're thinking about this? What are the elements that make that up? Because I think that's would be super interesting.
Yeah, it would be. It would be. And it's a great point. And my guess is it was, you know, one of these content companies that actually went to some Hollywood people and said, this is what we were kind of thinking. What do you think? And they just saddled bigger budget to put into it, right? Because they know they've got, you know, economies of scale, right? They have to build the video once instead of internally for just a few thousand people. Now, you know, they build it once, but they're going to sell it to a few thousand or a few tens of thousands or, you know, whatever. And so it's a little bit different in what you can do. But yeah, I mean, we should find these people.
Well, just Diane, we had Diane on.
Yeah, I was going to say Diane knows all those people. I mean, their people do some great work. So, you know, we've already had a couple of those folks, but anyways, all good stuff. And I just looked at the clock and I'm shocked at how fast the time went by today. We're creeping up on 9 o'clock and I actually have to jump into a 9 o'clock meeting today. So I actually have to be on time, sadly. But
I already had my 9 o'clock meetings. I mean, 9 o'clock was a while ago, Brent. I don't know. Catch up.
I'm in a different universe, man.
I checked 5 time zones yesterday. I have no idea what time it is. Well,
you crossed all the time zones.
Yes.
Yeah, it's all good. Well, hey, you know what? I think maybe a lot of people don't even know who you are, Matt. I didn't even get a chance to introduce you. We may have some new people who are like, who is this guy with the headset on talking about all this video stuff? Quick, give us a rundown and where can they find you?
So I am Matt Pierce. I'm the learning and video ambassador for TechSmith. We make Camtasia and Snagit. If you don't know them, check them out because they're fantastic tools. You can find me on Twitter at PierceMR, or you can find me on LinkedIn or wherever pretty much social stuff is. Would love to connect with you, talk with you about what you're doing with video and how you're using it. It's not a sales pitch, but I'm genuinely curious about how people are doing it and learning how I can help them to make better video.
Perfect, man. Thank you. Always good to see you. I'm so glad you were able
you.
to hang out today. We definitely have to get you back on here more often.
I try every Friday, you know, vacations, family,
Work, events,
work.
I get it. I know.
Travel,
you just don't really like us that much. I know.
No. I love it. And Video Friday. I always try to. It's on my calendar. It's my commitment. Man, I skip our company Friday lunch to hang with you guys. So you know,
I love it. I love it. We love you, man. I know you like hanging out with us. So it's good. We love having you. Sam, what's up?
Sam Rogers, Snap Synapse, everywhere you look, posting it in the chat. I do all sorts of stuff to do with learning, but with video specifically, producing and directing. I've got that coming up. Also at DevLearn, Ready Set Screencast. I'll be talking about that with Lee Rodriguez, who we had on Video Friday a couple months back.
Yep.
And I'm around.
And both of you fine, talented gents will be at TLDC 18 as well, correct?
Absolutely. Really looking forward to that.
Right.
I have no conferences planned for 2018 at all. I'm pulling back from the conference scene, but for TLDC, I make an exception.
Because it's different.
It's more like coming home. It's not a conference. It's coming home.
It is. It's coming home. It's hanging out with all the peeps and learning as well. We're going to do some really cool, fun stuff. I'm looking forward to educating everybody on the video stuff and actually doing it, right? And not just talking a whole heck of a lot about it. There isn't much we can do here on Video Fridays, but at least we can prime the pump, right? We can get everybody thinking about video, kind of looking at it a little bit differently, all the different reasons why they can use it. And then when everybody gets together and we all hang out together, we can actually all practice and do some really cool stuff. So definitely looking forward to that. Thanks guys so much for hanging out with me today. I know it was kind of last minute and losing our guests and our scheduling and stuff, but you know, that's just what I like to say is we're informal here. So we just go with what we've got and it's all good.
Yeah, it's nice to catch up and we can leave everyone in suspense for our coming guests. Sarah Gilbert next Video Friday. Colin Steed, I think we'll get the Video Friday after that. And there's always a bunch more cool folks lined up every day of the week.
We've got a whole bunch lined up. So you know what? If you really want to know who the next ones are, you can go hit us up at tldc.us, or you can also sign up for the newsletter, or both, right? And then you'll get all of the best information. And if you want even better information, you can become a member of TLDC. Become a member at tldc.us. Guys, thank you so much. I'm going to close your videos, and I will say goodbye to everybody. Thanks again, you guys. Awesome work. Good to see you. All right, everybody. That was TLDChat Video Friday. Thank you so much for hanging out with us today. Again, I didn't get a chance to take a 30-minute break because it's good conversation. And Video Fridays, I get to do whatever I want. So we skipped the break, but I will tell all of you guys that you're my favorite part of the day. So thanks for hanging out with us. Thanks for being a part of the community. Everybody learned at least a little something new today, or maybe confirmed something that you already know, or, at least feel like you have a place to come every single day, 8 a.m. Pacific time, 11 a.m. Eastern time, and 4 p.m. UK time. Fantastic day, you guys. Have a great weekend, and we will see you all next week.